Hi guys, it's me ChazRHD and welcome today to the qualifying watch-along for the 2021 Portuguese Grand Prix here in Portimao in the Algarve, in Portugal of course. And after practice 3, a session that was very interesting at really all parts of the grid. Of course, the fight for pole is most likely between Red Bull, Mercedes, and of course Verstappen and Hamilton, looking very close there. And in the midfield as well. Looking so close between Ferrari, Alpine, McLaren, AlphaTauri. Looking great there. So we are in for, yet again, for the third time this season, a very exciting and intriguing qualifying session here today. And hopefully you guys will join me in watching along today's session, which gets underway, as you can see on screen, in just under half an hour from now. Hopefully you guys are doing well on what is in my part of the UK, a nice sunny Saturday afternoon. And yeah, hopefully you're just as excited as me for today's session. Now, I was just reminded of something before I came on here. Definitely not a nice anniversary, but a sad anniversary. Because today is May the 1st. Now, if you're a big time F1 fan, then you'll know that that date does have significance, because 27 years ago, Ayrton Senna, of course, sadly passed away on this very day. So, very, very sad anniversary. But I'm sure Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and all the drivers out there will do justice to his memory with some, absolutely stunning single laps out there in qualifying, which is just what the great man would have done himself if he was allowed to continue in Formula One after that fateful Imola Grand Prix weekend. But yeah, hopefully we are in for yet again another very exciting qualifying session around what is a superb racetrack. But if you didn't watch along practice through with me earlier, and that stream I did earlier, then I'm just going to quickly go through the results and update you guys as to what the results were from that session. So, Max Verstappen was P1 by about a quarter of a second from Lewis Hamilton second, Valtteri Bottas third, and then Sergio Perez nicely in there in fourth place. I think Perez did a very good lap towards the end of the session there. Esteban Ocon fifth. Alpine look actually very quick so far. Can they maintain that though going into qualifying? We'll have to see. Sixth and seventh for Ferrari. Ferrari do, to me, at the minute, look as though they do have, at worst, the fourth best car, but most likely the third best car out there. And then completing the top 10, Norris 8th, Gasly 9th, and Raikkonen 10th. And then the rest of the field, Tsunoda P11, then Ricciardo, Giovinazzi, Alonso, Schumacher, Stroll, Russell, Vettel, Latifi, and Mazepin, of course, in last place, which is especially reserved for him at the moment in Formula One. But looking at that, you can clearly see the battle for pole is still going to be close, even though Hamilton was a couple tenths off. Hamilton didn't set a lap towards the end of the session on soft tyres, whilst Verstappen did. So I'm sure Hamilton could have gone a bit quicker. So still going to be very close. And I'm sure Perez and Bottas will have something to say in that battle. And yeah, the front of the midfield, you've got Leclerc, Sainz, Norris, Gasly. I'm sure Ocon will be in there somewhere, because so far this weekend he's looked quick. Also, Fernando Alonso, I think, could probably get in there as well. And we'll see what Ricciardo and Tsunoda can do as well in that battle. But looking very close and exciting for qualifying today. But I think we'll just go through the teams first and how I expect them to do. So first off, Mercedes. Mercedes are very close to Red Bull, no doubt about it. Do they have a quicker car than Red Bull? I don't know. We'll have to see in qualifying. I don't think we can definitively say right now Mercedes are quicker or Red Bull are quicker. It needs to be proven to us, basically, is what I'm saying, in qualifying. Mercedes can definitely get pole. They definitely can. I mean, this man on screen, Lewis Hamilton, we know how good he is and we know how capable he is of producing stunning laps to get pole position. And even, last weekend, or not last weekend, but the last Grand Prix weekend at Imola, even though he didn't have the fastest car, was able still to get a vital pole position. Despite Perez and Verstappen, looking quicker, and probably would have been quicker if they didn't make the mistakes, but they made mistakes. Hamilton didn't, and that's why Hamilton ended up on pole, and it did actually help compared to the rest of the field, I think, with Lewis Hamilton. Because if he started where he probably should have started, on pure pace from the Imola Grand Prix weekend, which would have been not normally, but it probably would have been third place, then it would have been probably a tougher race for him than it was. And it was a pretty tough race at Imola anyway, but no doubt Lewis Hamilton can still get pole today. Yes, Verstappen was looking very quick in practice 3, but Verstappen was looking very quick in practice 3 in Imola. And again, we saw what happened. So even though Red Bull were quicker, or not Red Bull, but Verstappen was quicker in practice earlier, do not count Lewis Hamilton out. He can without doubt still get pole. Valtteri Bottas, I think, should put in a better performance here, because I think Valtteri Bottas goes better around this track than Imola. I think this is more of a Valtteri Bottas track than Imola. So I think he should be somewhere in there. I don't see Valtteri having a poor qualifying again like he had in Imola. If he does, though, then you can count him out for the race weekend in terms of a podium or a race win, to be honest. But yeah, I think Lewis Hamilton, even if he's not on pole, it's going to be very close. Probably a 10th at most, separating him and pole position, which could be Max Verstappen, could be Valtteri Bottas. We'll have to see. But yeah, as I said, between these two, it is very, very close. And yeah, looking great for Max Verstappen in practice. But can he, after Imola, where he really should have been on pole because he had the pace, the Red Bull car was a tad quicker than the Mercedes, really should have been on pole, but just failed to do so. And even though he got a great start and, of course, won the race, he still gave himself a bit of a harder job to do that than really what was needed. Should have been really a comfortable pole and race win at Imola. So we'll see if Verstappen can cut that mistake out this time in qualifying in Portugal. If you look at what he did last year here in qualifying, hard to see really anyone beating him. I mean, I still think Lewis Hamilton will slightly edge him out, only because Lewis Hamilton is such a great driver, but it's still hard to predict, you know, going with Hamilton because Verstappen is looking so strong. I'm still going to go with Hamilton because I still think Hamilton, again, when it's needed, he'll produce that special lap. But if the Hamilton isn't on pole, I think 100% it will be Max Verstappen. I don't see Valtteri Bottas or Sergio Perez getting in there and getting pole position. So I still think between the battle for pole, I still think it is most likely, like 80% sure, it's between Verstappen and Hamilton. Verstappen, again, looked very quick in practice, but we'll see if that translates in qualifying. Nicely, though, for Red Bull, Sergio Perez put in a very good lap in practice 3 to be only, 3.5 tenths off, which is about, at most, where he needs to be. So he's definitely in the fight, Perez. We'll see what he can do. I think for Red Bull's perspective, they'll probably be hoping he can just get in the top 3 somehow, which I think would be a good result for him. But, yeah, Red Bull looking strong, but definitely I don't think out of these two teams we can say categorically this team over this team is favourites. I don't think we can say that whatsoever at the minute. We'll have to see simply in qualifying. Now into the upper midfield. McLaren have not had a good weekend. They've not been... Well, they did have a spin earlier with Lando Norris, but they've not had too many dramatic moments or reliability issues. It's just simply over a single lap around this circuit, they don't quite have the speed. Ferrari look comfortably quicker, I think you'd have to say, compared to McLaren. And even Alpine so far, in the last couple of practice sessions, Alpine have looked quicker than McLaren, and AlphaTauri are not too far back. So McLaren, I think, to be honest, their fight is going to be more so getting both cars into the top 10 rather than finishing up on the 3rd row or 6th and 7th or even the 4th row. I think, again, both cars into the top 10 into Q3, I think that would be probably the aim for McLaren because, again, it is, one, so close in that midfield pack, but secondly, their single lap speed. I mean, it's not been that strong so far this season. Even at Imola, even though Lando Norris was up in third, I think that was more so Lando Norris putting in a great performance than it was the McLaren car being so quick. And even in Bahrain, they were so quick in the race, but in qualifying, they didn't quite have that killer speed. So I think if you're a McLaren fan, just don't expect too much today. I think, say, 8th and 9th is probably the best you can expect from McLaren. And that'd be a pretty good result for them. Again, considering the single lap pace they have with this car this season, and also how they've gone so far this weekend around this track. And I think definitely these higher aero or more aerodynamic reliant tracks, I think these will be the more so weaker tracks for McLaren. I think, say, when we go to Baku, which is in about a month from now, I think you could expect McLaren to be very quick at tracks like that. And then when we go to Silverstone, which is a very fast track, I think McLaren will be very quick there. But at these type of tracks where it's very twisty and turny and it's very stop and start, especially in that middle sector, I think McLaren definitely don't go as well around those types of circuits for this car this season as, say, the Ferrari does. So, yeah, if you're a McLaren fan, just don't expect too much. But if you're a Ferrari fan, you've got to have positive expectations going into this qualifying session because they look probably third quickest team here at Portimao. The only team it looks as though could upset them is Alpine. Still, though, with Alpine, I think Alpine are definitely stronger looking. You can't really deny that, but I still think Ferrari will have, when it matters most, the pace over Alpine. So, I still think Ferrari have that third best package around this track this weekend. And as long as this man on screen can get it together in qualifying, which he hasn't done in his first two qualifying sessions for Ferrari at Imola and Bahrain, then I think both cars will be right up there. And they should really, if the top four have a normal session, it should be a Ferrari third row. Who finishes at the head of that third row for the Ferrari drivers is not quite certain because Carlos Sainz has looked very quick this weekend. Charles Leclerc, though, in qualifying especially, his speed is just immense. It has been for the last couple years. So don't count him out for a surprise result if something happens to one of the top four or all of the top four, or if Ferrari are even quicker than we expect in qualifying. But yeah, I think as long as this man, again, on screen, if he gets his qualifying right, then as a team, Ferrari should be quite formidable in that midfield pack and should be winning that battle for qualifying at least. I think the race will be a bit tougher, especially if there's a McLaren quite close behind them. I think they might be under a bit of threat in the Grand Prix, but if they can get a third row lockout, then they should be able to come away as the best midfield team in terms of the points scored from this Grand Prix. So, big day for Ferrari, and to be honest, I do hope they get a good result because they've got a car that around this circuit operates well. We've seen through the data that in sectors of the track in the first two circuits we visited this season, in the sectors where it's a lot more aerodynamic centered, Ferrari have been as good, if not a tad better than Mercedes, and almost as good as Red Bull. So if they can continue that, then there's no reason why they can't be very quick. The only thing they're lacking really is maybe the speed Verstappen and Hamilton have, which is just a tad better than everyone else at the minute. And also, I think definitely quite a bit of the time they're losing is still power. They're still lacking, say, at least 5 kilometers an hour to the Mercedes and Honda power units. So, hopefully, over the course of the season, that can improve because I think we could see a Ferrari fight for a race win later this season if they can improve that and just develop the car in general. But yeah, third row, I'd say that's the aim for them. For Aston Martin, though, after practice 3, they don't even look like they're going to get out of Q1. You mean you had Mick Schumacher ahead of both Aston Martins in practice 3? By the looks of it, on pure pace, Sebastian Vettel, as you can see on screen, as the car on screen, he has really been struggling again. Lance Stroll, yet again, looks like the quickest Aston Martin out there. And I really don't see Aston Martin troubling the top 10 today. I said that, to be honest, at Imola, and Stroll got into the top 10 barely. But at Imola, at least in practice, they looked a bit closer and a bit more competitive. Here, where it's a bit more, again, aerodynamic centered, you can really see the weakness of the Aston Martin, which is the aero package. The aero package for Aston Martin just isn't strong. Nowhere near good enough if they're going to be fighting with McLaren and Ferrari this season in the constructors, I'm afraid. And yeah, if the pace in qualifying is very similar to the pace of practice 3, then it's going to be kind of a miracle if they get both cars into Q2, because they looked desperately slow in practice 3. Probably the slowest team except for Williams and Haas. So yeah, very, very poor. Let's hope they can do something. I don't know what they can do, though. I mean, maybe one car in 12th or 13th place and another car, say, around 15th, 16th. That's probably the best they can do by the looks of it. And yeah, very sad days for Aston Martin. Lots of hype going into the season, but they've delivered on exactly none of it. AlphaTauri, next up. They look okay. Not as good as maybe as I thought they would. Gasly has been getting just about into the top 10. Yuki Tsunoda is on the cusp of that. But in general, it doesn't look that special from AlphaTauri. Definitely nowhere near as good as they were at Imola or Bahrain. And I think that does have quite a bit to do with the circuit. I don't think that's necessarily the development of other teams. I think that's, again, more so the track layout. I think if we were at a track, again, like Baku, I think AlphaTauri would be very quick because the power unit they have is very strong this season. But yeah, Gasly, I think, is looking like probably a sure thing for top 10. Not a strong top 10 finish, but getting into the top 10, I think he can. Yuki Tsunoda, I'm very interested to see what he can do. Can he have the first good qualifying session of the season? Bahrain really should have got into the top 10, even though he was trying to get through on medium tyres. His pace wasn't that good and wasn't good enough, I'm afraid. And then Imola, of course, he crashed out. So let's hope Tsunoda can have a positive and good session here in Portugal. But yeah, AlphaTauri looking 4th or 5th best team in terms of single lap pace, I think, at best. Very close, though, between them and McLaren. So we'll have to just see what happens. But yeah, looking, compared to how they start the season, I'd say okay. I think that's the best you can say. But for Alpine, looking great for them so far. Yesterday in practice 2, I believe they were 5th and 6th, or 6th and 7th. It was very, very good. That's all I do know from the results of practice 2. And then in practice 3, Esteban Ocon up in 5th place. What a drive from him. Alonso would have been right up there as well, but had a lap time deleted for a track limit violation at turn 1. So Alonso can go a lot quicker than 14th place. That Alpine looks definitely quicker than the Alfa Romeo and the Aston Martin. So at best, they're probably the 6th quickest team. Or not at best, I'd say at least they are the 6th quickest team. I think the real question is, can they outperform McLaren and AlphaTauri? Because if they are to deliver on that pace, then those are the two teams I think they're going to have to fend off. Ferrari, I think, will still be the quickest midfield team, but yeah, Alpine's fight, I think, again, is more so with McLaren and AlphaTauri. But if Alpine can continue the pace they've shown and be up there on the 3rd row, then what a result that is, and what a critical result that is for their season to bounce back that strongly after what has been a poor start, let's be honest, considering what they were last season and what they have started like. How poor they were in Bahrain, especially, where they looked like they were not really going to score that many points this season. So let's hope they can bounce back with a good result here. I will say, though, one thing with Alpine I am interested to see is if they do have a very strong result, I'm very interested to see post-qualifying what the speed traps and also the sector times say, because I think we'll get a very good indication as to how Alpine have improved through that. Because if Alpine, do qualify, say, on the third row or around the third row of the grid, then without doubt, that's not just a track layout. That's a car development that has made their car, jump up massively on the grid. So we'll see what happens. But they are probably the dark horse in the midfield for a good result. And then Alfa Romeo also, they looked pretty decent in practice 3. Weren't looking that great, really, yesterday in practice 1 and 2, but practice 3 with Kimi Raikkonen looked pretty strong, with Raikkonen just getting in the top 10. Giovinazzi wasn't too far off either. The Alfa Romeo looking decent, and you would hope Alfa Romeo would be around that position in qualifying. They look quicker than Aston Martin, but can they actually show it when it matters? That's what we need to find out. And I think they can. It just requires both drivers being on it and Aston Martin really continuing their poor form. Yeah, Alfa Romeo, probably the 7th best team, it looks as though they are. Around that, maybe 6th best at the absolute best. Yeah, we'll see. But I hope Alfa Romeo can have, say, a similar qualifying to Bahrain where they weren't too far off the top 10, because they've got potential as a team, Alfa Romeo, to get quite a few points finishes this season. They just need to make sure they start close enough to the top 10. Or, if they started in the top 10, that'd be great. But they need to start close enough to the top 10 to make sure they are there with their great race pace they normally have to capitalise on that. Which at Imola, even though they did get in the top 10, they really had to rely on kind of a mental race to do that. Even though the pace was pretty good. So we'll see what they can do. And then Williams. Well, yesterday in practice with Russell, they looked good, but practice 3, they looked very poor. They looked not that much quicker than Haas, to be honest. So yeah, Williams not looking too smart with their car. Let's hope Russell can do his usual Mr. Saturday tricks and get another Q2 appearance. He probably will, because that's just the way he is. But really, his fight is against, I'd say, the 2 Aston Martins and then probably an Alfa Romeo or 2. So those are the 2 teams he really has to look at as his competitors. Difficult to see, though, Williams actually causing a proper shock like they did at Imola, where they were, 12th and 14th on the grid. So, yeah, not looking too special, but let's hope they can do something of note in this session. But we'll just quickly move on to these pictures, as we're now, just over 5 minutes away from the start of qualifying. So with us, only a few minutes away, let me know, guys, in the live chat right now, who are you going for in your predictions for pole position? Is it Verstappen? Is it Hamilton? Or are you going Bottas or even Perez? Let me know in the chat. And also, in general, just give me your top 5. And if you want to give me your top 10, then go for it. But I'm with my prediction, I'm going to go just for a top 5, because I think a top 10 is pretty hard to predict, honestly. So I'm going to go Hamilton on pole, Verstappen 2nd, Bottas 3rd, Perez 4th, and Charles Leclerc 5th. That, to me, looks as though the most likely top 5. And then for the rest of the top 10, the drivers I think who will be in between 6th and 10th are probably going to be drivers like Sainz, Norris, Gasly, maybe an Alonso. But I just don't know where they'll fit in and what positions they'll be in. That's why I don't really want to predict those positions. So, yeah, let me know in the chat. What's your top 5 for the grid? And who are you going for pole position, most importantly? Verstappen or Hamilton, or, again, Bottas, Perez, Charles Leclerc? Let me know in the chat. And as we are very close to qualifying, I'll just quickly read some of those predictions out, and then we'll get prepped for the session. Varun in the chat says he thinks Hamilton will be on pole from Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Leclerc. So there you go, exactly the same. Chumi says Valtteri Bottas. Henry O'Boyle says Max on pole from Hamilton second and Leclerc third. Interestingly, from Bottas fourth and Perez fifth. Rooksfoot says Verstappen from Hamilton, Perez, Bottas, Leclerc. Marcus says Max for pole from Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc, and then Ricciardo fifth. That would be a major shock because Ricciardo has not really looked as quick as his teammate Norris so far this season, and McLaren don't look that quick at all, so that would be a massive surprise. I think it's Astro Stevo in the chat. Let me read this out. He says Hamilton pole. Hoping Perez does well. Is top 10. He goes Hamilton on pole, Max second, Perez third, Tsunoda fourth, Gasly fifth, Ricciardo sixth, Norris seventh, Leclerc eighth, and then Sainz. And then I don't think you've gone for a 10th place there. And yeah, just saying he used to be Astro Stevo, but he's changed his account name. Supercare predicting a spin for Mazepin. That's not exactly, well, when, not if, when it happens, it won't exactly be breaking news, will it? Stella, great to see you in the chat. One of the mods says Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Perez, Leclerc, same as me. Mo says Max, Bottas, Hamilton, Perez. Takanobu, I think it is, says Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Perez, Tsunoda. I think that's all the ones I can read so far. But keep commenting and keep posting them in the chat if you haven't made your prediction yet. Mike Brown says Hamilton, Bottas, Max. Or Max, Hamilton, Bottas. Well, you've got to decide between one of the two. I'd say Max Ham Bot is more likely than Ham Bot Max. Varun asks, how many Mazepins this weekend? Well, he's had one that I saw in practice 3 earlier. Probably, let's say 3 more. I'd say 1 more in qualifying, and then probably a couple more in the race. Especially if we get some drizzle like we had last year, he'll probably end up spinning about 4 times on the first lap. Blade says Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Bottas, Sainz, Perez. Michael Arvin, great to see you, says Hamilton, Max, Perez, Leclerc, Bottas, Norris, Ocon, Sainz, Gasly, Tsunoda, Kimi, and Giovinazzi. That's his top 10 or 12, can't remember. Greg says Max, Ham, Bot, Leclerc. Zakir says Bottas, Max, Hamilton, Leclerc, Perez. Michael Arvin says massive spin, it's a drinking game. Actually, that might be an idea for later in the season for content. Might actually do that. We could relive all the Mazda spins. Anyway, we have just over a minute to go. So, I'm going to just quickly get all of this stuff ready for you guys. So, as well, this order you see on the left-hand side, that is not the current order in Q1. Because, of course, Q1 has not started yet. And as well, I will add the dotted line for Q1, of course, to indicate where the cutoff zone is. But, yeah, Q1 is, I believe, 18 minutes long. So, if you are new to Formula 1, just letting you know that. 18 minutes long, and then I think Q2 is... 15 minutes, and then Q3, the shootout, the thing we get most excited for, is just 12 minutes long. But yeah, once the session starts, I will add that little cut-off point on the left-hand side. But that is the order from practice 3 earlier. So will we get a similar-ish order? We'll have to see. As the drivers prepare themselves for battle. Lewis Hamilton aiming to become, says on the stream, the first driver to secure 100 pole positions in Formula 1. Something we may never see again. unless Max Verstappen has something to say about that later in his career, as the qualifying session will start in about 45 seconds time. So let me just add that dotted line. So that, not dotted line, but you see the line there. So that line you see on the left hand side if you're looking at the screen, that is any drivers you see below that, that is the cutoff zone for Q1. So I mean, you can see at the minute, if it was to finish the way practice 3 finished, then it would be Stroll, Russell, Vettel, Latifi, Mazepin, who would be out of the session. Of course, though, it's probably not going to finish that way because it rarely does. But qualifying is underway right now. So there you go. 18 minutes to go in qualifying 1 as the first cars on track are the 2 Haas cars, followed up by the 2 McLarens. And then you've got the 2 Ferraris as well, so good early action. I think Imola, we had to wait 2 or 3 minutes for cars to get out on track and actually do something, but I think because we have such hard compound tyres this weekend compared to other weekends, and because of the low-ish temperature at the track, tyre warm-up has become very important for this weekend. It's probably the first weekend of the season, due to the tyres and where we are located for this Grand Prix, probably the first Grand Prix where tyre warm-up is going to play a massive role, and also the wind will as well, as it is 15.5 kilometers an hour, the wind, at the minute at the circuit. As Lance Stroll also joins the action, so the 2 Ferraris, 2 McLarens, 2 Haas cars on track. Now the 2 Aston Martins. Now Giovinazzi, Russell, Gasly, Raikkonen joining the action. Now Yuki Tsunoda. As Lando Norris actually is going to do his first lap, his first flying lap in Q1 on the medium compound, which is an interesting choice of tyre. He'll be starting his lap on, as this is probably, well, we'll see if he goes for a proper flying lap, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a bit of a more of a warm-up lap first. But he has opened the DRS, so let's see what he can do. He has got a bit of traffic ahead of Mick Schumacher. That will affect him later on, because of course the McLaren is a lot quicker. And yeah, I don't think Norris is really going to be going that quick on this lap. And yeah, Mick getting out of the way. Mick on the soft compound tyre, as Norris will do his first sector time. His first sector is a 24.4 for the first sector, which is not very quick at all. Again, it is basically a bit of a warm-up lap for Lando, and he is on the medium compound. I am surprised they've gone for the medium because, again, it's not like tyre wear this weekend is so bad or vast across the field, because, again, we have such hard compounds here. And because the temperature is not as high as maybe it could be, surprised he's gone for the medium there, instead of just going for the soft. And, you know, that obviously warm up a lot quicker for Lando than the medium. But I'm sure McLaren have some sort of strategy behind it, as he will now start, I think, his first proper lap, as here's a replay of Lando Norris at turn 3. On the entry to, turn 3, and basically waiting for the dawdling. That's what I was trying to say, dawdling, not waitling. Dawdling Mick Schumacher to get out of the way, as Lance Stroll is on the soft tyres and looks as though he is doing a proper flying lap. Let's see what Russell, who's also on a flying lap, can do with his first or middle sector. Russell over half a second quicker than Lance Stroll in the middle sector. So, yeah, very quick compared to Stroll is Russell, as Lance Stroll comes to the line. Stroll still not going that quickly. No one really is. Stroll doing a 1 minute 22.7. I'm sure Stroll can go much quicker than that. Russell comes to the line and goes 2 seconds quicker on a 120.7. But again, plenty of drivers out there are going for a bit more of a warm-up phase, then going for a proper lap. As Giovinazzi's gone P1, Raikkonen P2, now Sebastian Vettel into third place. Lando Norris is now on his first proper lap on the medium tyre. Done a purple first sector, green middle sector. So we'll see what he can do compared to Giovinazzi on that medium compound. I'd be impressed if he goes quickest. He comes up to the line, and he does go quickest by half a tenth. So that's a good time from Norris on a harder compound of tyre. As Daniel Ricciardo will be coming through just about now onto the straight to finish his lap, and he goes third, about 3/4 of a tenth down on Norris. Carlos Sainz, though, goes P1 on the soft tyre, 4 tenths clear. That's exactly what you would expect from Ferrari on that tyre compared to McLaren. Here is now Pierre Gasly on his first flying lap on the soft tyre. Bit of understeer going into turn 11. Car wouldn't quite comply with what he wanted. He's about 1/4 of a second down on Sainz after the first 2 sectors. And now we get into the very clumsy part of the track, turn 13 and 14, where many bites of the steering wheel are required to get what you need. And now Gasly will come through turn 15, which of course is a flat-out right-hander. As Leclerc's lap time of 36.5 was deleted, even though it's really slow. Gasly goes second, about 4 tenths down though on Carlos Sainz. Tsunoda only goes 8th, behind even Vettel and the 2 Alfa Romeos with that lap. So not great laps really there from AlphaTauri. Yeah, Gasly only slightly quicker than Norris, and Norris was on a harder compound of tyre. So very good time from Norris there. As now Charles Leclerc on a proper lap. Max Verstappen on a proper lap. He's 3 tenths up on Sainz after the first 2 sectors. Leclerc made a bit of a mistake there at turn 14, which he kind of did in practice 3. Comes to the line, does Leclerc, and goes second, 4 tenths down. Leclerc, though, can go a lot quicker than that, I'm sure. But it is at the minute a Ferrari 1-2, as Leclerc was only 1/1000th of a second quicker than Gasly, as Max Verstappen only goes second on the same compound compared to Carlos Sainz. Bottas now goes second. Bottas 0.08 of a second down on Carlos Sainz. So that's a very impressive lap then from Carlos Sainz. I mean, they can still go a lot quicker because they were lapping, I think, in the late 1 minute 18s in practice 3. And we're only now in the, mid 1 minute 19s. So they can go a lot quicker still. But good early lap. Really good early lap from Carlos Sainz. As Kimi Raikkonen now, as Sebastian Vettel goes up to 9th place. And Stroll now goes up to 6th. Alonso goes 4th on a 19.7. Still got, I'd say, we've got 3 more drivers to set a proper representative time. Those 3 being Hamilton, Perez, and Ocon. Ocon just sets a time, goes 5th. So 4th and 5th for Alpine. Looks as though the pace is genuine so far. Here's a replay of Sebastian Vettel on the TV broadcast. A guess of him having to wait. Oh, him and his teammate almost collided on turn 14. Stroll was letting through an AlphaTauri, and then Vettel decided to overtake as well. As Hamilton collected a bit of oversteer on the exit of turn 1 there. Lucky there wasn't anything there to upset massively his car balance. As Carlos Sainz does another lap and goes even quicker. He's now 2 tenths up on Bottas and Verstappen. Here comes Lewis Hamilton, though, who goes P1 by half a second. What an opening lap that is. Sergio Perez goes 3rd on a 1 minute 19.3. Perez, 10th and a half quicker than Verstappen. It is only the first run, of course, but of Q1, but that is an impressive opening for Sergio Perez and also for Lewis Hamilton, banging in such a great lap straight away. But yeah, Hamilton at the minute is in P1. Carlos Sainz is in 2nd place. Hope Carlos Sainz can keep up his good pace so far. And then you got Perez 3rd, Bottas in 4th, and then Max Verstappen is in 5th place. think, though, Verstappen is on another lap, if I'm calling this right. Oh, Lewis Hamilton's had his time deleted. Or track limit violation. So, and where is he? Turn 1. So that was probably the lap we just saw from Hamilton. So it's actually Carlos Sainz who's in P1. As Valtteri Bottas will come to line. Max Verstappen does improve his time, goes up to 3rd. Bottas goes P1 by 1/10 of a second ahead of Carlos Sainz. So it's Bottas 1st, Sainz 2nd, Perez 3rd, and then Max Verstappen is in 4th place as Lewis Hamilton's about to set another lap time. There's a yellow flag in sector 3. Hamilton keeps it on the track, this time on the exit of turn 1. Oh, but he locks up massively in turn 3 and he loses probably half a second alone in that corner. Still a yellow flag in sector 3. I don't know why. They're not showing why. Now the green flags are waving. As quite bad understeer at turn 5 as well. Not a great lap so far from Hamilton. Should comfortably get him through, though, for the moment, into the next part qualifying. As I think he'll just use this as a banker just to get a time on the board. Thankfully, track limits don't seem to be as bad this weekend as they were at Imola, as he's probably going to go, 6th or 7th with this lap is Lewis Hamilton. Into turn 14. He holds the rear end really well. The rear end was trying to get out of shape there, and he really caught it well. Did Lewis Hamilton, as he now comes up to the line, and Lewis Hamilton will go easily into the top 10. Yeah, he goes up to 5th position. So Lewis Hamilton, with a lap that wasn't even that good, and he probably could have gone easily quickest by 3 or 4 tenths of a second if he had done, say, a lap without mistakes. So Hamilton looking very, very good early on. Him going 5th, though, pushes Alonso down to 6th. Ocon now down into 7th place. I'll make sure to update the order for you guys as soon as possible. As, of course, the order is changing around quite a lot, as they're showing replays of Hamilton. Turn 13, bit of understeer, but that's quite common. Very slippery corner. So is 14 as well, where you can see a replay if you're watching the session of what I meant of him holding onto the rear end very well. As the Red Bull in the gravel trap in sector 1, and that is turn 4, I believe. Sergio Perez. Obviously, he's carried too much speed, I think, into turn 4 and just gone straight on. Yeah, he has got going again. Now he's kicking up tons of gravel on the track, so we might get a red flag situation here if there's too much gravel. But not great for Perez. And here's a replay. So into turn 3, that's fine. Into turn 4, simply just spins. And I think that is a perfect example of the wind speed. It's about 15 kilometers an hour, the wind at the track at the minute. And that is a perfect, I think, example of the difficulties it presents. Because that corner shouldn't really be doing that to that car. He didn't clip anything that made him do that. It's simply the wind, I think, that catches him out there. And then gets going again. Does deposit quite a few bits of gravel onto the circuit, as we've got 5 minutes to go now in Q1. So let me just update the order. So the top 10 is Bottas, Sainz, Perez, Verstappen, and then Hamilton, Alonso, Ocon, Norris, Leclerc, Gasly, and then the 5 that are currently just about getting into Q2 are Stroll, Giovinazzi, Daniel Ricciardo, Sebastian Vettel, and Kimi Raikkonen in 15th place. But with less than 5 minutes to go in the session, the drivers in the drop zone and desperately needing to get out is Yuki Tsunoda in 16th, who has not had a good session so far. Russell in 17th. Mick Schumacher 18th. Mick is doing such a great job in such an awful car. He is in 18th, and then it is Latifi 19th and Mazepin 20th. So the drivers needing desperately to get out of the drop zone. Again, Tsunoda, Russell, Mick Schumacher, Latifi, and Mazepin. Whenever I say Mazepin, it's just so easy. It's so... You almost just want to say Mazepin, but I'm trying to give him some respect here. But, yeah, now back to the action. So we've got a few cars on track now. We've got what? Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi's actually just gone up to 7th place. What a lap that is. What a lap from Giovinazzi. Out of nowhere. We've not seen that pace this weekend as Mick Schumacher's on a lap. He's done a personal best middle sector and is didn't look too bad there through turn 14, the last real proper corner on the track. And he will now come to the line. And Mick Schumacher goes 17th ahead of Russell. That is such a good job, again, because that Haas is very difficult to drive. You can clearly see that. So, great driving by Mick. And I think, even though he did make a bit of an embarrassing mistake in the race at Imola, I think he's had a good season so far, because, again, he's very difficult situation with that car. As Daniel Ricciardo now goes up to 8th place. That is exactly what he needed. Charles Leclerc goes up to 6th. So I'm just going to try and update the order the best I can as Sebastian Vettel goes 4th in the Aston Martin. That was not to be expected. Where has that come from? So Vettel 4th. Is that must be track evolution? There's no way. And Norris goes now P1 on an 18.7. That is a stunner from Lando Norris. As the order now changing around massively, which is not great for me because it's very hard to update. But it is Norris in first place, then Bottas, Sainz, and then Perez in 4th, and then you've got Vettel in 5th place. Again, what a lap. And then Max Verstappen is in 6th. Lewis Hamilton in 7th. I'm sure Mercedes and Red Bull are holding back on the fuel because the midfield look actually quite close to them. But yeah, Charles Leclerc is down in 8th. And then you've got Alonso in 9th. Kimi Räikkönen is about to complete a lap. Let's see where he goes. He's currently down in 14th. And he goes up to P11. Does Räikkönen as Giovinazzi goes up to 6th place. So Giovinazzi into 6th. Nikita Mazepin, he's currently last. Let's see what he can do. Russell is a quarter of a second up on getting out of the drop zone and knocking Lance Stroll out. Mazepin stays 20th. 0.999 of a second away from getting in. Miles off the pace. Lewis Hamilton goes 2nd. About half a tenth off Norris, who's P1. I'll update the order in a minute. It's just changing around way too quickly, so I'll make sure to do it in a minute. As Russell comes to line, can he get through? Yes, he does, up to P12, and surely that will be good enough. Mick Schumacher comes to the line, and sadly stays in 19th, as Bottas now goes P1 by 0.07 of a second. Gasly goes up to 8th. Yuki Tsunoda, P11. That pushes Esteban Ocon into the drop zone. That's a surprise, considering the speed this weekend. And let's see if there's other drivers out there. There is Ocon. Is Ocon doing a lap? Yes, he is. Ocon is on a lap. Let's see what he can do. And his middle sector, very good. Ricciardo is surely going to get knocked out of qualifying 1 here. Ricciardo's 15th. Ocon, after 2 sectors, is 4/10 quicker. And surely Esteban Ocon is about to knock Ricciardo out. Stroll is out. Stroll is in 17th. With Latifi 18th. As here comes Esteban Ocon to the line, surely knocking Daniel Ricciardo out, and he does and goes up to 4th place. What a superb lap by Esteban Ocon, but it is Daniel Ricciardo knocked out in Q1. What a surprise that is. His teammate is a second quicker in Q1, and Ricciardo is out. Just waiting to see if Nicholas Latifi is going to set a lap. I don't believe he will. No, he won't. He's in the pits. So, let me just finalise the order, as it was changing around way too quick for me to update it. Bottas, P1, and then Norris, P2. Great lap there by Lando Norris. We know he's such a great qualifying driver, but this season he has been especially good. Esteban Ocon, great lap to get himself out of danger there. Up to 4th. Carlos Sainz in 5th. He didn't go out at the end of the sessions, and so did Perez. They both didn't go out at the end of the session, so I think there's a lot more speed that they could have shown there. And then Leclerc in P7. Sebastian Vettel 8th. So Vettel has, for the first time this season, out-qualified Lance Stroll. That is exactly what he needed. Shame for Stroll, shame for Aston Martin, but Vettel desperately needed to out-qualify Stroll, and he has done so. Stroll, as we'll get on to in a moment, is out. But completing the top 10, Giovinazzi and Gasly. And then just getting through, Max Verstappen down in 11th place. He'll have to, well, I'm sure he will improve in Q2. And then Yuki Tsunoda gets through. That's good for him because he was in the drop zone most of the session. And then Alonso 13th. Raikkonen 14th. So good for Alfa Romeo. They've got both cars through to qualifying 2. Be interesting to see if they can get through to the next round. And then the last man getting through is George Russell, and knocked out in Q1 here in Portugal. Big surprise, Daniel Ricciardo in 16th place. What a poor result. I said he was not that good around this circuit if you look at his performance from last year, but I think that's really proven it. Stroll 17th, that's a bit of a surprise considering how strong he was in the first couple races. Latifi 18th. Schumacher 19th, and Mazepin in 20th. So again, knocked out in Q1. Ricciardo, Stroll, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. And now we await qualifying 2. I'm very interested to see qualifying 2 here because I think the field, we could get a shock. I mean, the field is so close. That's why Ricciardo was knocked out, because the field, again, is so close. But I think we could see a big shock here. Because, I mean, you got Verstappen, obviously, down there in 11th place. I mean, of course, he will most likely improve in this session. But it just shows you that if you do get it wrong, then, you know, you will be punished. And that is exactly what we want. We don't want the field to be so far apart that drivers can not have that good of a session and still end up finishing in 4th or 5th place. That's what we do not want. Yeah. Let me just add the next dotted line. There you go. The highest dotted line between Gasly and Verstappen. That's now the new drop zone. So if it finished in Q2 with Verstappen, Tsunoda, Alonso, Raikkonen, and Russell in those positions, they would be knocked out in Q2. Just saying that for anyone new. And again, if you are new, Q2, 15 minutes long. And we'll be getting that session underway in probably a couple minutes' time. Astro Steva says, so disappointed for Danny Rick. What went wrong there? Didn't expect that. I think what went wrong, we're actually seeing on screen, massive understeer at turn 13. That probably did cost him the time to get into the next part. But I think simply it's 2 things. One, he's not that great around this circuit. This is not a Daniel Ricciardo circuit. And secondly, he's still getting used to the car and the team. I think he will get used to him and used to the whole situation. I think once we get to Monaco, for example, a place where he's historically been so good, and a place where, because how close the field is, it really does come down to driver performance. I think you'll see a very good result there for Daniel Ricciardo. But again, because of the nature of the circuit and because of obviously the McLaren does lack single lap pace. I know Norris was up there in second, but of course Norris is not going to finish there at the end of Q3. But that's also a factor. And also, again, McLaren getting used to him, Daniel Ricciardo getting used to them. Varun says, I thought you'd be knocked out in Q2, but Q1, I can't believe it. Yeah, it is a big shock. It is a big shock because you'd expect Daniel Ricciardo to have enough speed in hand to even just slightly edge his way in to the top 10, not top 10, to the top 15. As the session, Q2 is underway. I'll update the timer in a few seconds' time. So, yeah, as we've got, Ferrari on track. I think both Ferraris have got McLaren and AlphaTauri. Yeah, as soon as I can, I'll sync that timer up on the screen. As we're just getting the cars on circuit. It is a shame there's no fans here. Of course, at the last Portuguese Grand Prix, there were quite a lot of fans, and I think actually really did add to the atmosphere of that Grand Prix. Didn't make it as say lonely as other Grand Prix from 2020. So yeah, hopefully very soon we can get fans back at Grand Prix, and I'm hoping Monaco might actually be the first one, even though technically it's a street race, so the people live there, so that's probably the only reason you're going to get fans there. But let's hope, say, Baku or maybe even the French Grand Prix later in the season, we can get fans back in. Obviously, being in the UK, looks as though the British Grand Prix will probably have a full crowd because of the restrictions are all going to be probably lifted by the time of the Grand Prix. So, yeah, can't wait to see that again. As we've got just over 13 minutes to go. As Bottas, Norris, Sainz, Giovinazzi, Raikkonen have started their laps. Norris now starting his lap on the soft compound of tyre. And there you go, synced up now the time. 13 minutes to go. So let's see what Lando Norris can do. Did a 1 minute 18.8 in Q1. Let's see what his first Q2 time is. And whether he does have some stellar pace in the bag. As he now comes through turn 6, 7 and 8. Not exactly a special part of the track, but still challenging. As we've got every car now on track in the top 15, except for the two Alpines who are still in the pits. As now we've got, so the first time on the board is going to be set by Carlos Sainz, who of course was so quick in Q1. He's on the medium compound tyre. Let's see what lap time he can do on that tyre. Comes to the line. There's a 119.5. That's pretty good for a medium compound tyre, but I'm not sure that'll be good enough. Most of the drivers out there are actually on the medium tyre. There's only 2 or 3 out there on the soft, interestingly enough. Max Verstappen has done a purple first sector on the medium. Giovinazzi has gone a second slower than Carlos Sainz. Bottas goes third. That's a bit of a warm-up lap, though. He's 4 seconds off the pace. Charles Leclerc goes a 10th quicker than Sainz. As Hamilton and Norris also setting a bit of a warm-up lap. Quite a few seconds off the pace. Verstappen, another purple sector. He's on the same compound as the Ferraris. But looks as though he's going to go a bit quicker. Car looks fine through turn 14. And now the descent and the ascent through 15. And now up to the start-finish line. Max Verstappen goes P1 by 3.5 tenths of a second. It's exactly what you would expect at the very least. And now we have Valtteri Bottas on the medium compound tyre. What can he do? He's in a purple middle sector, so this is looking good for Valtteri Bottas. Got some traffic ahead of him, though, in Alpine, which gets out of the way the best he could. Hamilton has done 2 purple sectors, so looking very good for him. Valtteri Bottas now completed turn 14, now through 15. Can he edge ahead of Verstappen here? Raikkonen has gone up to 4th. Bottas does go P1 by 6.5 tenths of a second. Where did that come from? Norris goes 2nd, only just behind Bottas. Hamilton goes P1 by a further half a second. Let's hope Max Verstappen can go quicker, because he's been obliterated with those laps from the Mercedes and even Lando Norris. As now here comes Sergio Perez. What can he do as Russell goes up to 6th in the Williams? Perez goes P4. 8 tenths down, though, on Lewis Hamilton. But what a lap by Lewis Hamilton. Half a second quicker than anyone else. That is exactly why I refuse to bet against him, because many times you'll bet against him and he'll just blow you out of the water. As Vettel goes 5th, I'm going to assume he's on a soft compound tyre. Yuki Tsunoda comes to the line. Only P10 on the soft compound. That's not great. Esteban Ocon goes P4, though, on the soft compound. 6 tenths down on Hamilton, but what a lap by Lewis Hamilton. As Charles Leclerc's on another lap here, I'll make sure to update the order once they've completed their first proper runs here. As, by the way, thank you for that donation. I'll read that out in just a moment. Just seen that in the chat. As Fernando Alonso just gets into the top 10. A second almost, though, down on his teammate Esteban Ocon. As Charles Leclerc on the medium compound tyre here. He's done 2 personal best sectors. This should put him kind of level of Max Verstappen. We'll see. Charles Leclerc comes to the line. P8, 19.1, and yeah, almost level with, about 8 thousandths of a second slower than Max Verstappen. So there you go. Those are your first runs in Q. Not exactly, because here comes Max Verstappen on an improved lap on the medium compound. Can he close that 1.1 seconds down and make it look a bit more respectable? We'll see. As Verstappen, so far in this session, has been slower than Perez in both Q1 and Q2. But can he get himself back ahead and into the action here? Max Verstappen up to the line. Only 5th. Almost 7 tenths down on Hamilton. Where is the pace of the Red Bull that we've been talking about? Where has it gone? Because that is quite poor. I mean, Lando Norris is quicker, and I think Norris is on the same compound. As you know, I correct myself. He's not on the same compound, Norris. Norris is on the soft. But, yeah, that is quite worrying for Red Bull, that they are that far behind. I know it's only Q2, but, you know, you'd expect them to still be close to Mercedes, you know, throughout the entire qualifying like they were in Bahrain and Imola. As now Sergio Perez is on another lap. What can Perez do? To be honest, Perez, he might actually have a good chance of being right there with his teammate Verstappen, if not beating Verstappen. Because he's looked very close to him so far in this session, as Perez now, he's done a personal best first sector, but not improved the middle sector. As Perez comes to the line, where does he go? He stays in 6th place. So let me update the order. So it's Hamilton with just under 7 minutes to go in Q2. It is Hamilton P1 by half a second to the next car, which is Valtteri Bottas. Lando Norris is 3rd. Esteban Ocon is 4th. Max Verstappen 5th. Perez 6th. Bit worrying there for Red Bull. Vettel 7th. Vettel, out of nowhere, is now producing stunning pace. He is on the soft compound tyre, but still looking pretty good. Charles Leclerc 8th. I think Ferrari I think they could probably get through with Leclerc on the medium. I'm not sure it's wise, though, with Carlos Sainz trying to get through on that compound. So Leclerc in 8th, Gasly 9th, and then Fernando Alonso in 10th. So those are the drivers getting through to Q3 at the moment. So currently in the drop zone and desperately needing to get out is George Russell in P11. What a drive so far by him. Yuki Tsunoda in 12th. Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari in 13th place. Carlos Sainz, though, on that harder compound of tyres. So if he gets put on the soft, I'm sure he can go quicker. And surely they've got to put him on the soft. They cannot afford to play that risky game. Because he's clearly not been quick enough so far to get through. And then the last two cars in the drop zone in Q2, the two Alfa Romeos of Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Raikkonen. So we'll see what those drivers in the drop zone can do. I think Carlos Sainz and Yuki Tsunoda, and maybe one of the Alphas, the cars you need to look out for, really. Russell, I mean, P11, that's great, but if he got into the top 10, that would be an amazing thing, and it would be a massive surprise, and I just don't think that's going to happen. Because, again, I think there are drivers below him who could go quite a bit quicker on a softer compound of tyre, which surely they will go on if they've got any sense. Here is Carlos Sainz, and yes, Carlos Sainz is on the soft compound tyre. I will say with Ferrari, it's very weird. This season, they've not really made any mistakes. They've been flawless. Yes, that's me saying that. Ferrari this season have been, in terms of their trackside operation, flawless. The world must be ending if that's the case, as Sainz now will start a flying lap, or this might just be a warm-up lap, we'll have to see. But as long as he gets the lap right and doesn't make a mistake, he should easily get into the top 10. And even though it will be a disadvantage, him starting on the soft, around this circuit, it's a lot better to start, in 6th or 7th on a compound that's not great than 12th, 13th on a compound that's a lot better. Because track position is still very important. As Sainz 0.2 of a second up on Alonso, who is the driver at risk in the drop zone. Alonso not on track right now. I'm sure he will be on track very soon, unless he has a problem. As watching the Ferrari on board, there is no real, aerodynamic speaking, there is no real glaring weakness that you can see with the car. Front end is actually a bit better than it has been in the past couple years, and the rear end is still pretty good, so definite gains made there, as Sainz is half a second up on Fernando Alonso. Giovinazzi also up on Alonso with 2 personal best sectors for the Italian. As Carlos Sainz now comes through the final corner and will come up to the line and he will go into 9th position. What can Giovinazzi do? Only P11. That's a bit of a surprise because he put in a pretty good lap, I have to say. So let me just quickly update that. So as Charles Leclerc stays in 8th place on the medium compound tyre, interestingly. So, yes, Sainz is in 9th. Ferrari just about getting through at the minute. Gasly, now the driver at risk, in 10th position. And then you've got Giovinazzi in 11th, and then Alonso in 12th place, and then Russell 13th, and Tsunoda in 14th position with just under 2 minutes left in Q2. As Sebastian Vettel now on a flying lap, 8 tenths down on Hamilton after 2 sectors, so this is pretty good. As long as he can improve his time, that's really got to be the aim. And really on this final sector, this straight he's now on, you'd expect the Aston Martin to gain a bit of time on their midfield rivals. He does. Does he improve his time? I don't think he did. I think he was slightly slower. I think because the middle sector he just didn't quite get right, which is definitely Aston Martin's weakest sector of the circuit. As now we switch to Pierre Gasly. just about getting into the top 10. Had a top 10 starting finish at every Grand Prix this season. And not just that, he's been in the top 5 of the starting grid so far this season on all occasions. So can he do so yet again later on? Going to be pretty hard, but we'll see. First, though, he needs to get into the top 10. Quite bad understeer in turn 11, but he is 6/10 down on Hamilton after 2 sectors. This should be, as long as, well, turn 13 wasn't great, but as long as he gets these corners okay enough, should be able to improve his lap time here. As Pierre Gasly now comes through turn 15. Tsunoda looks as though he's going to miss out with this lap. As Pierre Gasly comes to the line and goes up to 8th place. That should be good enough. Carlos Sainz looks as though, unless he can improve yet again, Carlos Sainz looks as though he is at risk here. If any of the drivers in the drop zone at the minute can improve their time. Yuki Tsunoda comes to the line. He's currently 14th. Can Tsunoda get through? No. P12. He is out of qualifying. Antonio Giovinazzi, he has improved his 2 sectors. Can he get through? We'll be seeing right now, as he comes through turn 15, Alonso also improving his first 2 sectors. Giovinazzi comes to the line. Surely he gets through. No, he doesn't. He misses out by 0.07 of a second. Alonso, he's also out in 12th place. Giovinazzi 11th, Alonso 12th. What can Kimi Raikkonen do when he comes to the line? Don't think he'll be good enough. Raikkonen 15th. That's disappointing for him, being out-qualified by 0.6 of a second compared to his teammate. Carlos Sainz jumps up to 6th place. Charles Leclerc will come to the line and go 6th. Russell comes to the line with a soft compound tyre and goes P11. Almost by, he was only half a tenth off getting into Q3. Great job by Russell. P11. He shakes his head because he's got such a, I think, winning mentality that he just wants to do the absolute best he can. And I'm sure he thinks he could have done better than that. But Q2 is over. And here is your finishing order. So, in first, second, third, and fourth, and fifth, it is, of course, Hamilton, Bottas, Norris, Ocon, and Verstappen. And then Charles Leclerc is in 6th place. Carlos Sainz is in P7. So great there for Ferrari to get both cars through when it wasn't looking a sure thing. Perez 8th. And then Sebastian Vettel 9th. He has to be one of the drivers of the day so far for him to get that dogged car up into 9th place so far. Because that Aston Martin really should not be that good here, as Stroll proved earlier. And then knocked out in Q2, Russell P11. He's got to be maybe not overly happy with that, but surely he'll take some positives going into the race, because he's out-qualified Antonio Giovinazzi, who's 12th, also out. Alonso out in 13th. Tsunoda out in 14th. And then Kimi Raikkonen, the man on screen, out in 15th place. So there you go. That is Q2 over and done with. And yes, someone, I think, in the chat, very surprised to see Sebastian Vettel in Q3. And yes, you are not seeing things. Sebastian Vettel is through into Q3, where he deserves to be, obviously. So we'll just get stuff ready for the beginning of the shootout. And with Red Bull's lack of pace in Q2, I am very interested to see what happens here, because I reckon we could get a shock. Unless they're really sandbagging and running a bit more fuel than is necessary, they are really struggling, Red Bull, when it matters. And Hamilton, without doubt, looks clear favourite for pole here, because that lap in Q2 was some lap. Half a second quicker than Bottas he was in that session. But yeah, Q3 will be underway in just a moment. Just want to say, guys, don't forget, if you are new to the channel, to subscribe to the channel for more content like this, as we will be doing watch-alongs for every qualifying session for the remainder of 2021 and for every race of 2021 as well. And as well, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notifications bell for the race watch along for tomorrow's 2021 Portuguese Grand Prix, which I cannot wait for already, seeing the grid so far. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe for that. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or go to my channel page. And yeah, hit the notifications bell. As well, don't forget to smash the like button and share this video everywhere you can. But yeah, don't forget to join us for that tomorrow. And also, don't forget to join me later on at 7 PM UK time, as I will be doing another stream, and that'll be a race preview. So don't forget as well to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and come around later on for that stream as well. Let me just quickly find this super chat that I missed. And it is from Michael Arvin. Doesn't put any message there, but a donation of $4.99. Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, we are... Q3 will be getting underway very, very shortly in the next minute or two. So, it's going to be very interesting to see what goes down here. And this man on screen that I've just gone to, Lando Norris, what can he do? Up in P3 in Q2, was P2 in Q1. Is he on for another amazing qualifying? I mean, Imola, it would have been an amazing qualifying if he didn't track extend, but he's been great in qualifying really his whole career in Formula 1, and is he on for a right old result here that could really upset the order, especially the championship battle? We'll have to see in what is soon to be beginning the final 12 minutes of qualifying. As Mercedes just getting the tyres ready in the pits, the soft compound tyres, of course. And also, just to let you guys know, the cars that got into Q2 and that will be starting in the top 10 tomorrow on medium tyres are the 2 Mercedes cars, the 2 Red Bull cars, and Charles Leclerc. So watch out for Charles Leclerc tomorrow, because he might have something to say in that battle. And that, you know, starting on that compound will help massively with his race result. Like it did, I think, last year, where he also started on the harder compound. And that basically secured him 4th place in the Grand Prix last year. So, yeah, look out for Charles Leclerc in this session, of course, and also tomorrow in the race, because he might be a bit of a wild card in that front 5 battle, or front 7 battle. How many drivers are up there? As, yeah, session should be getting underway very shortly, and I'm sure as soon as it gets underway, we'll be getting plenty of drivers on track. Because, of course, the warm-up lap does need to be completed for the cars, for the drivers, as soon as possible because of the tyre warm-up situation here. And, yeah, I think definitely going to Q3. I mean, of course, the battle for pole is going to be very interesting, but after Q2, I am very intrigued to see where Red Bull finish, because I think Red Bull are in a bit of trouble here. I don't think they're as quick as they think they are. I'm really willing, and I'd be very happy to be proven wrong on that in the next 12 minutes, but yeah, they don't seem that quick. They do not seem that quick to me. Because, you know, if they are hiding something, then surely they would have been a bit closer than what they were in Q2. Because in Q2, they were miles off. Everyone, to be honest, compared to Lewis Hamilton, was miles off. But Q3 is about to begin, as we now got a McLaren coming out and an AlphaTauri as well. And everyone now coming out of the pits. Norris, Gasly, the 2 Ferraris, the 2 Mercedes cars, and now I think the 2 Red Bull cars as well. And I'm sure Ocon and Vettel will be on track very soon, as I'll make sure to sync up the timer for Q3 in a few seconds' time, as we have just less than 12, or now 11.5 minutes to go in Q3. At the minute, looks as though Lewis Hamilton is the favourite for pole position, but we've been surprised before on these qualifying watch-alongs when it comes to pole position, so I'm sure we'll see a surprise or I'm sure there'll be some sort of surprise in this session. As, let me just sync up the timer right now. So there you go, 11 minutes to go here in Q3. And Max Verstappen now finally joins the action. So he was let out a bit later compared to his teammate, and Sebastian Vettel is still in the pits. If they keep Vettel in the pits any longer, I'm going to assume they're only going to do one run with him, or just do it, or do his run. I guess when F1 comes back into the pits after they have completed their first runs in Q3, as Charles Leclerc begins his first lap in qualifying 3. Will it be a warm-up lap, or will it be a serious lap? We'll have to see. As I think Lando Norris has also started his first lap. Be interesting to see what he can do. As I think Valtteri Bottas just passed Carlos Sainz on the pit straight, so I'm assuming those drivers, and yeah, the 2 Ferraris and 2 Mercedes, to me, look as though they're doing a warm-up lap here. This doesn't look like a serious attempt, because Bottas being held up massively by Charles Leclerc, so I don't think this is a serious attempt at a flying lap. So, hopefully, we can find someone on the TV broadcast who is doing an actual proper flying lap. As now we've got Sebastian Vettel on track, thankfully. And helicopter very close to the track there. Just waiting basically for these cars to actually start their proper final lap. Or not final lap, their proper first lap of Q3. As Max Verstappen now starts his first flying lap. Will it actually be a flying lap though? Or will it be a warm-up lap for Max Verstappen? As Pierre Gasly goes P1. And now this looks like a proper flying lap for Max Verstappen. As Gasly does a 27.5, Norris a 28.9. There's a very slow lap times. As Verstappen almost oversteers into the gravel trap on the exit of turn 4. Very lucky to get away with that. Almost did a Perez. And that could have ended up being a massive problem for him, as Bottas, he's completed his warm-up lap. Now so has Hamilton. I'm sure Sainz will in a minute as well. As Verstappen's car through turn 8 looks okay. Now through turn 9 into turn 10. This looks as though this will be the first proper time on the board. Car looks good through turn 11 and 12. Ocon does the first proper time of the session, the Q3 session. 1 minute 19.4 for Esteban Ocon. That's okay, I'd say, for a first run for him. As Max Verstappen now exits turn 14. Now into turn 15. He's 8 tenths up on Ocon, but that's not who he's going to be fighting in this session. Max Verstappen will go P1 on a 1 minute 18.2. 1.2 seconds quicker than Esteban Ocon. What can Mercedes do in response? Lando Norris. Bottas, by the way, has done a purple window sector, so it looks as though Mercedes do have good pace. Gasly of Verstappen has his time deleted, as Lando Norris now goes P1 ahead of Gasly second and Ocon third. Next up to the line, Charles Leclerc. Leclerc only second, just under 2 tenths down from Norris. Bottas goes P1 by 3/4 of a second. And Lewis Hamilton comes to the line and only goes second by 0.007, by a James Bond of a second, as Carlos Sainz goes third. A 1:19.0. That's a good lap there. Perez now goes third. Half a second down, though, on Valtteri Bottas. But at the minute, it's a Mercedes 1-2 as Sebastian Vettel goes 9th. Yeah, at the minute, it's a Mercedes 1-2. Bottas first, Hamilton second. With Perez third. And I think Sainz in the Ferrari in 4th place. But not looking good for Verstappen. If Verstappen is to get pole, it's going to have to be one hell of a final lap, because everything looks against him here. And surely Hamilton will improve his lap, because being only 7 thousandths of a second off Bottas, I'm sure he can find that from somewhere. Yeah, with just over 6 minutes to go. It's Bottas currently on provisional pole position with one single flying lap remaining. Hamilton second, Perez third, Sainz in fourth, Charles Leclerc is in fifth. Oh no, Lando Norris, sorry, is in fifth. Then it's Charles Leclerc in sixth place. Gasly is in P7. Esteban Ocon is in 8th. Sebastian Vettel is 9th. And Max Verstappen at the minute has not set a lap time so far in Q3 because his time was deleted. And Max Verstappen is in 10th place. Verstappen, though, was 1.2 seconds quicker than Ocon. And Ocon is now 1.1 off Bottas. So Verstappen actually would have gone P1 with that lap. Just to clarify. So Verstappen is in the fight. He is in the fight. As long as he doesn't make that mistake he made at the exit of turn 4 and keeps it clean, he's got the pace. But can he get the pole? That's a completely different question that will surely have answered in the final 5 minutes. Let me know, guys, in the chat. Who's getting pole? Is it Bottas, who's currently on provisional pole? Is it Hamilton? Or is it Max Verstappen? Do you think Verstappen will bang in a flying lap at the end that is a good enough one for pole position? Let me know in the live chat right now what you think's going to happen. Let me just quickly read the chat. Jabalani says, Mark must just stay calm and win this one too. Verstappen is a bit frustrated now, and that is not good for him and his driving. If you're Verstappen right now, your aim has got to be to get, at the very least, because of the problems he's having, he's got to be at least on the front row here. Because even if he's, qualifies second, he's still got a very good chance of winning the race, as the two Ferraris have returned to the track. Pierre Gasly has also returned to the track. But if he gets on the front row and doesn't get pole, he still has a great chance of victory. But what he cannot afford is to make another mistake on this final lap and end up 4th or 5th. Because then he'll end up being too far away when it really matters for race victory tomorrow. So he's got to keep, forget about the lap he's just had. And just bang in the best lap he can do. And just, whatever happens, happens. That's what he's got to do. And I'm sure, considering how great he is, he doesn't need my advice on what to do for a great lap. I'm sure he will at least set a very good time here, as he's now coming back out onto the track. The two Mercedes also back out onto the track. So we now got what? 2 Mercedes, 2 Ferraris, Gasly, Verstappen, and Norris on track. The only cars in the pits are Perez, Ocon, and Vettel. Perez now in the pit, now on track. Perez looks as though he's going to end up in 4th place, to be honest, if Verstappen can get his act together, because half a second off Perez was in the first run, and I just don't think he can close that gap. And it doesn't really look as though Red Bull have a car that is... I mean, if Verstappen gets pole, it's probably because Max, getting the lap time out of the car. I don't think it's necessarily Red Bull having the quicker car. As Lewis Hamilton on the medium compound tyre, and Valtteri Bottas on the medium compound. Everyone else is on the soft. That is one hell of a gamble. And if Verstappen gets pole, that is going to be a gamble that has spectacularly failed, as the wind speed is now picked up to 22 kilometers an hour. So that's probably what played a big factor in Verstappen's almost spin at turn 4, where, of course, his teammate spun. As Max Verstappen, with 2 minutes to go, now starts his final lap of qualifying. Or will he go for a tyre warm-up lap? We'll have to see. Really, we can only judge it by his entry to turn 1. As Max Verstappen comes down to turn 1 and absolutely throws it in. And yes, this is going to be Max Verstappen at his absolute best, hopefully. Into turn 3 he goes. No problem so far. And into turn 4, does he have an issue? No, absolutely bang on through there. This should be a very good first sector time. No, it's actually slower than his first sector time before. That's probably why he had the lap time deletion, to be honest. But he's about a 10th down on Bottas after the first sector. Max Verstappen now through turns 7 and 8. Car looks fine through there. Nothing special, but it looks fine. Got cars ahead of him. A McLaren, I think of Lando Norris. And Norris thankfully gets out of the way. Norris still should make the checkered flag to complete a lap as Verstappen 3.5 tenths down on Bottas after the first 2 sectors. Unless he produces a miraculous final sector, surely he is not going to be on pole. Because I don't see him making up the time unless he does another flying lap after this. As I think Sebastian Vettel has just completely messed up his final lap attempt by going way too slow through turn 15. Max Verstappen comes to the line and goes third. 4 tenths down on Bottas. And well, if he has fuel for another run, then he's got to go for it. Because it looks as though he has no chance in hell of pole position here today in Portugal. Here's Carlos Sainz on the soft compound tyre. What can he do? He's in P5 currently. Can he get close to Sergio Perez? We'll see. As Carlos Sainz now comes through turn 15, will come to the line, and Carlos Sainz stays in 5th place but does improve his time to a 19.0. He's only a 10.5 off Perez as Hamilton, as Ocon goes up to 6th. Great lap there for Esteban Ocon. Hamilton half a second down on Bottas after 2 sectors. Lewis Hamilton is not going to get pole position here. It's just not going to happen. He's on the medium tyre. He's not on the tyre that he needs to get the lap time improvement. And I think Lewis Hamilton will end up here second. Bottas has hit the checkered flag and he's first. Hamilton second, 3 tenths down. So it's Valtteri Bottas taking pole position for the first time in 2021. From Lewis Hamilton in second. Max Verstappen should be in 3rd place. And then 4th is Sergio Perez. Vettel has ended up 10th. There's Carlos Sainz at the minute in 5th. Ocon 6th. Norris 7th. Leclerc 8th and Gasly 9th. But I believe, Norris is pitted. Will Leclerc be on a lap? Let's hope he is. I'm not sure he is though. But at the minute, Leclerc is 8th and Gasly is 9th. But what a disappointment for Red Bull. And for Max Verstappen, gotta say, he bottled it. That first lap, even though he did track extend whilst making that mistake, if he had not made that mistake, I think he would have got pole. But again, made a critical error. And that is what cost him. So, let me just finalise the order. So, it is, for the top 10, it is Bottas first, Hamilton in second, Max Verstappen as qualified in 3rd place, where he qualified last year. And unless he gets a great start to the race, he's in for a tough Grand Prix tomorrow. Carlos Sainz 5th, out-qualifying his teammate Charles Leclerc for the first time this season. Esteban Ocon 6th, water drive by the Frenchman in the Alpine. That's, of course, Alpine's best qualifying position of the season so far. Norris in 7th. That's good for him and McLaren. Leclerc 8th. He'll be very disappointed, Leclerc, with that. And then Gasly in 9th. And in 10th place will be Sebastian Vettel. And the rest of the field, it is Russell 11th. Giovinazzi 12th. Alonso 13th. Tsunoda 14th. Raikkonen 15th. And then knockdown Q1. Ricciardo, Stroll, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. So there you go. Qualifying is over. And it is Valtteri Bottas on pole position. So, well, that was a qualifying session that turned out quite a bit different to what I thought it would. I did not expect Valtteri Bottas to get pole. I certainly did not think Mercedes would get the front row quite comfortably as they did. And again, I think we have to say, Max Verstappen had the chance and I'm afraid bottled it. So, yeah, that is really, really bad for him because, the pole position, it was there. It was on the table for him and he just did not get it done. Just like in Imola, where he had the chance, get the job done, he missed out on it and ended up, 4/10 of a second slower than Bottas, which I don't think is the representative pace of the Red Bull compared to, or Verstappen rather, compared to Mercedes. But I think after qualifying, even if Verstappen had got pole, it would have been by thousandths or hundredths of a second. It wouldn't have been a dominant pole position or anything. I think we have to say, so far, Mercedes do have the quicker car this weekend. And that is not, it's not a massive surprise, but it's definitely an important factor in a possible title battle. And the reason I say possible is because at the end of the day, we've only had 2 races. And yes, Verstappen has won one of the 2 races, but Hamilton could easily go on a run and win the next 3 or 4 races and really end the championship battle. And I have to say, that end of qualifying was actually quite disappointing. I was hoping it'd be a bit more exciting than that, but that's just the way it is. But it'd be interesting to see what role Bottas plays tomorrow. Hopefully he can keep his tyres together this time. Right, I'm going to just read out some comments quickly, and then I will, I think, end the string. So have a quick look. Cheddar, I thought they were doing the sprint quality this track. No, thankfully they weren't. Ewok says loved it. Michael Arman says I was way wrong. Pratyush says fastest time still Hamilton's Q2 run. That's why I'd still say Hamilton. If you're going to look towards the race tomorrow, you'd have to say Hamilton is the favourite, because not only is he probably got the quickest car, but, you know, after what Verstappen's just been through in qualifying, the momentum is with Lewis Hamilton so far this weekend. And everything at Mercedes just looks a bit more comfortable than it does at Red Bull. Tonka says Bottas will struggle getting his tyres to warm up again and have a race like last time. Let's hope not. Right, let me look at some other comments here quick. I have to say as well, Carlos Sainz up in 5th place. What a drive by him. Very happy that he's done that, or put in that performance, because I am a bit of a fan of Carlos Sainz. I've always thought the guy's very good. And I think the last couple of years that he had at McLaren really proved that. Had a very good race at Imola, where he could have easily been on the podium if he had not made mistakes in the race and had a bit of a better qualifying. And now he's had a good qualifying. You can see the potential that he does have. Ferrari, though, still to me look as though they have the best midfield package out of anyone there. Driver of the day, though, you'd have to probably put Bottas, Ocon, Vettel in the top 3. Don't know who you'd go for first there. I'd probably have to go Esteban Ocon as driver of the day, because 6th place in the Alpine, that's a great job. Because again, the Ferrari looked quicker. Norris was very quick today. Obviously, Gasly's always very quick. And again, out qualifying his teammate Fernando Alonso by such a massive margin, not in terms of lap time, but also position. Great job by Ocon. Also great by Vettel to get into the top 10. Hopefully he can get his first points finish since the Turkish Grand Prix of 2020. But we've got a very interesting grid. The race, the battle for the race win is not over by any stretch, because I'm sure if Verstappen can get ahead of one of the Mercedes on the first lap at least, he will definitely be a very strong contender. And remember as well, the Honda in a straight line is very quick, so if he gets in the slipstream and DRS of a Mercedes, he's going to have a go. We know that. And then after that, we've got a great fight between Ferrari, Ocon in there in the Alpine, Gasly in there with the AlphaTauri, Norris in the McLaren. It'll be very interesting to see what Ricciardo, Stroll, Alonso, Raikkonen, possibly even Russell can do outside the top 10. So we've got a very interesting race tomorrow, and I cannot wait for it. And again, like I said earlier, hopefully you guys will join me for that, for the race watch along for the Portuguese Grand Prix. And again, do not forget to subscribe for that stream coming up tomorrow. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or go to my channel page and do it there and hit the notifications bell. But I think, to be honest, guys, I'm going to come off. Thank you guys very much for being part of this stream and watching along the session. Great to see you all here as always. And again, do not forget to come here later at 7 p.m. UK time, which is in about 3 hours from now, for a race preview for tomorrow's Grand Prix. We'll go through all the data and why the qualifying results turned out the way they did and what I think will happen for the race tomorrow. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, hit the notifications bell. Don't forget as well to smash the like button. Don't forget as well to share this video everywhere you can. And as well, don't forget to join the Discord server, link below in the description. Great place to interact with other F1 fans and motorsport fans in general about all things really in the motorsport and Formula 1 world. Plenty of discussion goes on there, so make sure to join that. We have, almost 500 people in that server, and again, it is quite frequent. So if you want to join it, then make sure to do so. And also, if you want notifications for my videos and streams, is a great place for that as well, because it gives probably a better notification than YouTube does. So make sure to join that as well to be notified as to when I upload videos and go live like later on and tomorrow. But guys, until my race preview later and until the next watch along, which of course will be tomorrow at about the same time, 2:30 p.m. UK time, for the race watch along for the 2021 Portuguese Grand Prix, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.